It's the West Tigers podcast. It's episode number 323. Eddie joined by Gary and Declan. A bit different tonight. We're going to start the show with an apology, Gary. It's not to you.
It should be.
It's not. And Declan, it's not even to Paul Kent, despite the fact he broke a few ribs, in that tree incident, and I was laughing about it Sunday night. There's no apology for him.
Were you there? Was it you that you got in the fight with?
No, but I wish I was there. I do frequent the pubs in Balmain occasionally, but I wasn't one of the guilty parties in that. But the apology goes to Yachty, the quiz master. He didn't get a quiz question wrong last week. That was my error. I read the question wrong. It was about when we had been undefeated against the Broncos, which years, in Sydney. And I left those two crucial words out. So Yachty, he maintains his perfect record, Gary, of never having got a question wrong. And I have previewed the quiz tonight, so I am definitely not going to make an error tonight.
Yeah, I actually chipped Yachty for it on Saturday out of the football, and he was very clear on telling me that it wasn't him who made the mistake. That it was
when you told me that, my heart sunk, and I thought it would have been my mistake because, unfortunately, Gary, you were missing last week in action. I don't know where you were, but when you're not on, the people who are not very good with technology, i.e. me and Steve, one of us has to record, and my Zoom only goes for 40 minutes. So my Zoom was going to explode in about 2 minutes, and I had to rush the quiz in. So I was actually trying to do Yachty a favour, but I ended up, giving it back. So
despite making an apology, you are trying to justify your error. Is that correct?
I'm not qualifying my apology. I'm just giving some context to the listeners out there.
and trying to blame me for it.
Declan's smiling there like the cat that's found the cream up the back of the cupboard. Why are you smiling, Declan?
Well, I think Yachty should feel honoured because I don't think we've ever received an apology for the countless praise we've received on the group chat. So,
boys, tonight we're going to do something a little bit different, just a bit of content. I'm going to ask you for your 2027 West Tigers team, and it doesn't have to be 1 to 13. I've asked the boys to try and find who their locks are, who are obviously in the current squad, maybe one or two juniors who we haven't heard of, or most of the fan base haven't, and maybe a dream signing or two. So you can take that either way. You can make it unrealistic or realistic or anything. So we're going to do that. We're going to do buy, sell, hold. We're going to preview the Bulldogs game and, of course, Yachty's quiz at the end. But, Declan, the reason I wanted to do this tonight is I was just flicking through the TV before, and there was an interview with Josh Addo-Carr, who ironically we come up against this week, and they asked him his favourite memory in a West Tigers shirt, and he said it was his debut try against the Melbourne Storm at Leichhardt Oval, and the try was obviously shown, and it went Robbie Farah passed the ball to Luke Brooks, who was 21 at the time, passed the ball to Mitchell Moses, who was 21 as well, threw an excellent ball to James Tedesco, who was 23 years old, who tapped the ball on to Addo-Carr, who was 20 years old. Those guys have gone on to, three of them have gone on to play Origin. They won 4 competitions between them. So, my first question is, why aren't some of the people responsible for this in jail?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I think we're going to have to maybe phone the police because I think there has been some sort of criminal activity going on with all those guys leaving. I think it's if you look at it from a glass half full perspective, it shows that we've never had the problem of unearthing or finding these sorts of players that you can build a squad around. It's been keeping them that's really let us down recently. So it sounds really bad, when you say it and you say how old they were at the time, just how much potential they've had, and they've pretty much all, barring Luke Brooks, went on to win premierships and play Origin, and it just breaks your heart as a Tigers fan that they didn't achieve those goals and those accolades with us. But I suppose it's just a lesson that you have to look after your backyard because hopefully the current administration, the people we've got in place now, will make sure that something like that never happens again, and all the talented players that we debut go on to win premierships for us as opposed to other clubs.
I think the other key part of this is the one that didn't leave is probably the one that didn't develop into the player that he was expected to be. So not only did we have trouble hanging on to those high quality players, I really think we had trouble developing them as well. because Luke Brooks didn't reach the heights of the others, and may he have reached those heights if he had left the club earlier? That would have been an interesting kind of story to see.
My aim, Declan, is not to torture Tigers fans and you guys tonight by bringing this up. But would that group have won a competition at the Tigers?
Oh, I don't know. That's tough to tell because, as Gary said, Brooks probably wasn't put in the environment that he needed to be to thrive. So you could maybe make the argument that the other people would fall under the same boat. And if they stayed like one more contract cycle, who's to say they wouldn't have left after the next one? Because under the old administration, there's probably no guarantees that they would have, everything would have went sunshines and rainbows anyway. So Tedesco might have left anyway. But I think that it was a really good core of players. I think they probably would needed to be surrounded by probably more quality forwards. I don't think our forward pack around that time was something that was formidable enough for us to make the top 8. But I think we definitely could have played finals footy, but whether we won a premiership or not, I think that's a bit of a stretch still. But, what if, I suppose?
I think Tedesco would have developed into a world-class player no matter what, whether he stayed or wherever he went. I think there's probably question marks about how Mitchell Moses, whether he would have developed into the player that he's turned into. So that's probably the biggest question mark out of those guys for me, is whether Mitchell Moses would have been the player he is now, who I do think, looking at his game, still has some issues in his game that he still hasn't rectified as well.
Reason I bring this up, boys, is because, are we on the verge of creating a similar sort of platform in terms of, I mentioned that try, which went from Farah, which was the only veteran, to the halfback, to the 5'8", to the fullback, to the winger. And I'm looking sort of at this roster now in 2024, and obviously the side's still rooted to the bottom of the table, and, finals doesn't appear anytime soon on the horizon. But Billy Slater, Declan, who is one of the few guys I actually like to listen to. He does a podcast each week. And I think unlike some of the ex-greats, he actually does watch every game. And that shows in his coaching because his side's very well prepared. He said, to quote him, there's certainly something building there. And I'd be pretty excited if I was a Tigers fan. He was referencing, obviously, the signing of Taruva, which I'll get your opinions on in a minute. But my first question is this sort of period, mid-2024, with a couple of signings coming next year, similar to that of round 7, 2016?
You would like to think so, wouldn't you? Because, when Tedesco, Moses, and Brooks were coming through, that was probably the last, generation of players that we were able to bring through together. After that, there was the signings of Josh Reynolds, Marlino, Packer. We did prioritise recruiting from outside our club, which really, obviously didn't work.
We were scraping. I agree with that. I'd say the last 7 or 8 years, we've been scraping the bottom of the barrel. I mean, no offence to those guys like Josh Reynolds and stuff, but we've been making desperate signings because I don't think the juniors were coming through, or we ignored it, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly. I think Alex Seyfarth was one of the only, juniors to come through during that kind of 2020 to 2022 time period. There wasn't much coming through at all. And, it shows, I think we're really feeling that effect now because there's none of those guys in their kind of mid-20s, performing week in, week out, and we're still having to sign experienced players. So I think we're still having a knock-on effect in that. But now we're finally starting to see a few different classes of players coming through. And yes, not all of them are going to make it. But if we can just, find or unearth 2 or 3, first graders from each successful, age group, then I think that's going to lead to success for us. But then the second step is obviously we have to keep them as well because, we've had this before. But then, eventually, other clubs are going to come knocking. I mean, we've seen it with Stefano, Galvin. I'm sure if we don't lock him down soon, that other clubs are going to be really interested in him. So I think we've done a good job to identify top talent, but I think the hard part is going to keep them once they've shown that they belong in first grade, which the club historically over the last decade hasn't done a good job of doing at all.
And I think that whole in juniors coming through in that 2020 period, after the Big Four, the so-called Big Four, left the club made a conscious decision to not focus on the junior development the way they had in the past, and look at being a club that would bring NRL quality players into the club. That was the strategy they moved to because they decided, well, we developed these guys and we lost them anyway, so they changed direction. I think that decision right there was the reason why we had that hole in developing players. And it's really only been the last 2 to 3 years where focus has gone back onto rebuilding those pathways in our club. And I think under Shane Richardson, that's just going to improve more. So hopefully, once we get a couple of years down the track, we're really past that kind of mistake that we really made of ignoring our juniors, which we did for a couple of years, and we start to see those players coming through. And we're seeing the first shoots of them coming through now in Galvin and De Silva got a couple of games last year. Hopefully that turns into just being more than just a couple coming through, where it starts to really fill up our squad with those younger players.
Declan, just on Taruva, Billy Slater thought it was an excellent signing. And it wasn't just the typical cliches about, he's a good finisher and whatnot. He said, and he was quite adamant, he said his best work is in the backfield. And that's something that we're really missing.
I mean, yeah, we talk about, it feels like every week this season that our sets just aren't really starting that well. And although he's probably not as big as someone like Junior Tupou and as powerful, he's very dynamic and he's very reliable, and he's just that kind of like pocket rocket. A little bit like Api Coruscant. I know obviously because they're both, family members, but like just that kind of small, stocky, built low to the ground kind of guy that is really difficult to tackle. And the thing about Taruva that's really good as well is that, you could probably play him in any position in the outside backs. And I think he'd do a really good job. And I think he'd have the potential to be one of the best players in that position. So like the rumours are going to play him at centre. I think he could make a great centre. I think he played centre with Bula for Fiji at the end of last season, and he did a really good job. He's obviously established himself as a really top quality winger. And I think he's also got fullback potential as well, because coming through the grades, he was a brilliant fullback. He'd run for 200 metres every week in New South Wales Cup, so he's got that background as well. Obviously, he's still the second to Bula at the moment, according to like what we're hearing from the media. But yeah, it's just really exciting, and it's one of those things where if you told me before, maybe 3 weeks ago, that we were chasing him, I probably would have said, well, it's probably unlikely it's going to leave Penrith, but they've really sold him, haven't they? Just like Jerome Luai, they've sold him a vision, and they did it quietly as well. There's no media noise. It got leaked to the media, but it looked like it was already like pretty much a done deal at that point. So yeah, just a really great signing. I'm really excited to see him play for us next season, and I really wish he was playing for us this week, but fortunately not.
I found it very interesting that Penrith dropped him after that announcement last week. But the key part of it for me was how quiet we kept it. We haven't done that in the past at all. I watched him play when we played them out at Bathurst a couple of weeks ago, and the whole game I'm sitting there thinking, he's got a connection to our club, he's off contract. Why are the Dragons chasing this guy and we're not? And then within a week, it had been announced he'd signed at our club. So I have to really commend the club on the way they dealt with that negotiation, how quiet they kept it. And hopefully that's a sign of things to come.
It's funny, Declan, on the same show when I saw the clip about Addo Carr being interviewed, there was a little segment at the end where players got interviewed about sort of their heroes growing up. And Taruva, first guy you mentioned, was Benji Marshall. He said, my dad was a massive Tigers fan. Benji was his idol. So, like, is this... I know it's going to be potentially a slow burn in terms of wins and finals, but is this already wildcard coaching selection, which Benji was and is still, starting to pay dividends?
I mean, I think that we could all agree that although the season is we've lost that momentum to start the year when we had those two wins against the Eels and Sharks, I think we can agree that, like from a coaching perspective, I think Benji's doing a good job. Obviously, it's still a work in progress, but in terms of the recruitment, you've got to give him an A+. Like Landon Jerome Luai and then Taruva, these guys are like coming from Penrith, and they would have had like 3 or 4 clubs chasing them each. So yeah, I think that this could be the start. And I think Steve said at the time we appointed him, like kind of out there, decisions like that can have revolutionary results. And I think it shows in the recruitment, at least, that players do respect him, and he can get meetings where, like, potentially other coaches back in the day might not have been able to get their foot in the door if they were the Tigers coach. And Benji can just do that because he's got that standing in the game. And I think players really do listen to him.
It's interesting if you went back and listened to the podcast over the off season, and I'll mainly point out Eddie and I, but I think across the board, there were concerns about having Benji Marshall going in as coach this year. I remember Eddie and I raising them quite heavily. My confidence is starting to build that he may make it as a coach. I love the way he speaks in the media. I think his press conferences and the way he handles that side of it's fantastic. He seems to have a really good rapport with all the players. They do seem to be playing for him. They do seem to be fighting for him. And I'm looking at our structures, and I know a lot of people don't agree, and you guys may not as well. But I do believe our attacking structures and the way we're playing football is improving. It's much better than what we were seeing last year. I think as this season progresses, our attacking structures are improving. I thought our attacking structures last weekend, for the most part, were actually quite good. We just weren't able to finish it. I think against Penrith, our attacking structures were quite good as well. The last pass was going to the ground. I'm hopeful soon some of that will start to click and we'll see a much more open and attacking team.
They just look like a connected football team, Gary. I think I said it a couple of times, and you could probably tell the fact that I've only had one meltdown this year in 7 weeks. We were not winning any more games.
One meltdown on the pod, or one meltdown?
No. After a game, it was against Canberra. That was a real meltdown. And since then, we've lost 4 in a row. But, like you said, confidence in Benji, Gary. I don't know if you can put a percentage on this, but how much of that confidence is based on what he's doing, and how much of that confidence is based on the fact he's going to have Shane Richardson for the next 4 years?
I think they're going to be a really strong team. I do believe, because Benji being a rookie coach, having someone so experienced in that CEO role, I think that's a huge advantage to him. And not just experienced in a CEO role, he's been the general manager of football at a number of clubs. South wanted him back as a general manager of football. It wasn't the CEO role he was being headhunted for over at South Sydney. It was the general manager role. So I think his knowledge across the game is going to be a huge asset to Benji Marshall. I'm going to put him at 50-50 at the moment, because I think that's the importance of both those roles in our club. And they both have a massive role to play in getting this side into a top 8 side, which I'm hopeful they're going to do, hopefully a bit quicker than everyone's kind of expected.
Just going back to that try again, Declan. So I want you to just visualise this. So it was Farah to Brooks to Moses to Tedesco to Addo Carr. But now I want you to visualise a try, let's say from Appy at dummy half into the halfback, which will be, let's say, Luai, onto Galvin, onto Buller, onto Taruva. My question being now, I've got at the moment the current ages. So again, Taruva's 21, Buller's 22, Galvin's 18, Luai's 27, Appy's 31. I've thrown into Silva because he's 19, so I don't know how that timeline, let's say we push ahead to 2027, about 3 years away. And I've also got Latu Finer, who's 18. I'll start with a question. Out of all those guys I mentioned that potentially could be in that 2027 spine/team, who's the most likely not to make it?
Well, I would say that Latu Finu would be the one most likely not to make it, just purely because I don't see where he plays, what position he'll play in that team. If Lachlan Galvin kicks on, like we all think he will, based on the few games we've seen so far, like where does he play? He's playing off the bench at the moment, and he's playing he plays 10 minutes in the half. So I think he came on against the Broncos at hooker for a little bit, but I can't see like a place for him. Some people are speaking about him playing lock or making the transition to another position. Like theoretically, maybe he could do it, but I don't think he would be keen to make that transition himself. I think another club would be keen to take him at 6, and plus we have a log jam at the moment as well, so yeah, I just not because he doesn't have talent, just because I'm not sure that I don't think he's better than Lachlan Galvin at 6, and for that reason, I think we should prioritise Galvin rather than try and move Galvin to fit Latu-Fine in the starting team.
Gary, what do you think?
Well, if he's going to be in the team, I think it's probably going to be in that lock position. Now, he's got a lot of work to do to make that transition, and it's not an easy transition for a guy that's mostly grown up playing in the halves, has played some lock, but mostly grown up playing in the halves. It is a massive transition. But I do have to agree, if he, out of all those guys, if one of them's not going to be here, it's probably going to be Latu-Fanu. And not because he doesn't make it, because he'll probably be playing in the 6 jersey in another club. But if he's going to be here and he's going to have a role in that 2027 team, I think it'd be in that lock position.
So from what you guys are saying, I'm assuming, Declan, that we are, I've been pretty bullish on Lachlan Galvin, and I think he could potentially be, a world-class lock in 4 or 5 years. But would that diminish someone's influence when they're so good, with the ball playing? He's already set up our most tries this year. I know we don't score many tries, but I think he's got 4 or 5 try assists already. Is there potential there to get both of them in the side if Galvin could be a lock down the track, or would that be? Do you think he's tracking? He's showing too much class in the halves to consider that.
Yeah, I think he's just showing way too much class. I was talking to Gary before we started recording that, if it's not broke, then why do you fix it? And Galvin, he does all his best work on an edge rather than the middle of the field. So if you put him at locks, a lot of his skills might be diminished because he's playing against bigger people. But on the edge, he just, he makes overlaps and he's really skillful. So if I was to guess it a transitional jersey or position, I could say he could make it in the back row at 12 or 11. But even then, I think that every club is probably going to, or most clubs will be interested in giving him an opportunity at 6. So I think he's earned the 6 jersey for us, definitely this season. And I think I would be giving it to him long term, because I think that Phil Gould said, look at what he's doing now with 7 games under his belt. What's he going to be like with 3 seasons under his belt? It is quite scary to think his potential. And I think he could be a state of origin bowler as early as next year, to be honest, if he continues to play like this. He's it's actually unheard of how good such a young player, fresh out of high school, is. And I can't remember anyone else has had this kind of meteoric rise to where Galvin's at the moment.
The way Galvin's tracking at the moment, he's your 5'8" moving forward. His development so far over the past 12 months, and hopefully that continues moving forward, which you all expect it to do. If you had to get both Latu and Galvin into the team, the one with the most potential to play multiple positions, I believe, would be Lachlan Galvin. I think he would make an easier transition. That's not the transition I'd be making, though. I think he's going to own that number 6 jersey, hopefully for the next 8 to 10 years for us. But if you had to have them both, the one who is most likely to make a transition to another position, I think would be Lachlan Galvin.
Joel made an interesting point, Declan, on the last podcast. He said around, I've forgotten the point. What did Joel say? Gary, do you remember what Joel said on Sunday?
Joel said a lot on Sunday, so I can't pin down one statement, mate.
He made an interesting point around the halves. I'll come back to it when I pick up my notes. But Declan, the fullback, Buller and Tedesco, that's the one I just, I think Jahream Buller could be a good NRL player. I know me and Gary have butted heads several times, probably to you.
And agreed a few times.
But can he be, is he a lock for one to be our fullback in 2027? I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think with him, I know I'm probably going to contradict myself because I basically said that Galvin's a lock to be the 6 in 2027, but I don't think that we should be like these players. They play one position, one good season, and then that's them lock that position in long term. So, yes, I think he should be the fullback going forward. But then if someone like Heath Mason was to come along next season and then play really, really well in the fullback jersey, then he should have it. I don't think Buller is one of those guys where he'll be the fullback for the next 5 years, no doubt. Because as you have alluded to, Eddie, he does have aspects of the game that he does need to improve on. But with that being said, I think that, like he's someone who can develop into like a top class fullback, in my opinion. Like he's got the defensive attitude, and he's got the kind of like he's got the effort. Like he might not have as much natural talent as Reece Walsh, but I think that hopefully he can develop into that kind of Dylan Edwards style fullback. And,
does he have, like you mentioned, like Dylan Edwards? He's I wouldn't say he's necessarily the quickest, but boy, he's powerful. Like he's got a lot of power. He makes 250 meters. He runs the ball hard. I just don't know if he has the speed and power to be an elite fullback. He can be a solid fullback, like a Gutherson, and you know what I mean.
Yeah, but I think the thing with Dylan Edwards and also Tedesco as well, like people forget, like Tedesco didn't come into first grade and just blitz it straight away. Like he just progressively added to his game, like step by step by step, to the point where he played Origin in 2016. But from 2012 to up to that point, he just got better every single year. Like I remember, like he did his ACL and he came back and he just developed this upper body strength where he was able to break tackles, and then after the season after, he developed a passing game and he was able to like set up wingers like on the sideline, and he just progressively got better and more consistent. And I think sometimes, like as fans, we see someone like Dream Bula and like they kind of have to like be good straight away in those key playmaking positions. And obviously Bula, he's in a really important position, and he does have an expectation that he needs to play well. But I think that I'm willing to be patient with him. And I think with Dylan Edwards as well, like he was dropped from Penrith for like dropping high balls like at the start of his career, and now look at him, he's a Clive Churchill medalist. So like these players, they're not static. Like they do go up and down the form, and I think that if you give time and effort into them, I think Bula is one of these guys that we'll see has improved a lot in his game. And he's also just come from basketball, not too recently as well, so he hasn't had a lot of NRL or a lot of rugby league even, compared to someone like Reece Walsh. But yeah, I just think that's something that we need to be patient with.
I've been quite critical of Bula this year and pointed out areas he needs to improve. The key part for me, this is his first full season in the NRL. We're not talking about a guy who's got 2 or 3 seasons under his belt. This is his first full season playing at this level. It's not unusual for a young guy to plateau in their second year. And as I said the other night, what's really important is that the areas where he is struggling, the straightening of the attack, the bringing the ball back on kick returns, that someone's talking to him about these things and pointing them out, and he's willing to work on them and improve them and add to his game by working on them. That's where he is right now, and that's what's going to determine how successful of a career he has, is the work that he puts in to fix his areas of weakness. There's not many players that come into the NRL and are fully developed and don't have things to work on. The ones that have long careers are guys who work hard at adding to their game. And Dylan Edwards is the perfect example of a guy who did that. For a long time, people didn't rate him very highly as a fullback at all. And now he's at least in the Origin conversation every year. And as Declan said, won a Clive Churchill medal. He's a guy who just built his career throughout. Everything I hear about Dream Bula is that he's very dedicated, he's a very hard trainer, and that he'll put the effort in. So as long as those areas of weakness are being identified and he's working on them, then I think he's going to develop into a really good fullback, if not a great fullback. But it all comes down to how much work he's doing at this point in time to fix those weaknesses.
Declan, back to Joel's point. I found it. I wasn't taking the piss out of you, Joel.
It better be a good point. Man.
I literally just forgot. Back to Latu Fainu. So Joel, he's getting a little bit impatient. I think he wants Caesar out, back to the bench or back to reserve grade, and Fainu in. Now, I think
maybe that was the agenda the other night, mate.
Well, there was a number of agendas apparently, Gary. So we'll get to them later. But do you think that would be beneficial for us long term at some point to have a look at Galvin and Fainu in the halves, be it this week or in a few months' time?
No, I don't. I don't like the idea of having 2 18-year-olds.
But Caesar's not going to be here next year, Declan.
Yeah, but like think of the damage it could do to Galvin. Like it's not like obviously Caesar is not going to be here next year because like we all suspect that Luai's going to play 7, but like like you could do a lot of like confidence damage to someone like Galvin if you throw in like two 18-year-olds into first grade week in, week out. Like we've still got 2/3 of the season left. And I just think that having Galvin next to kind of an experienced guy and like doing all the kind of like 1% stuff while he like kind of focuses on his game, I think that's better for him development wise, long term. And yeah, I know it looks good on a team sheet, but I just don't think it would work long term. And then plus, like, but imagine if like we're in this position now and we have Fainu and Galvin in the halves, but then we've lost like 8 straight because we've got rookie halves. Like everyone would be like begging to have Caesar back in. Then like I know we've lost a few in a trot now, but I still think we do have stuff to play for, and experienced players like play week in, week out, and I don't think Fainu would be ready to play 7 at this point in time.
Fair. Declan, let's just pretend now it's round 20 and we're on the podcast and it's a Wednesday night, and I'm saying, Declan, the Tigers have won 4 games. Caesar's not going to be here at the end of the year. Hey, that's double the wins. That's I'm happy with that. Caesar's not going to be here next year.
Bias.
Gary, let me finish. There's 7 rounds to go. Surely we have to put Ladu Fainu in to see if he can, be here next year.
Yeah, I think at that point, if it's only 7 rounds left and we've won 4 games, then yeah, I think that's a different proposition than at the moment where we've still got more than half the season to go. So yeah, I could buy that for sure.
Do you buy that, Gary?
What role are you putting him in for to see if he's going to be here?
I think we're learning nothing at the moment about him. And I'm not saying I defended Caesar on Sunday. It was Joel that was sort of saying, I think it's time for Caesar to go to the bench. I said, no, not a chance. But if I get 10 games down the track and we've won 4 or 5 games and we're sitting around the same spot, last, second last, whatever, I think you have to put Fainu in the halves because we have to find out, where he's going to fit in this picture.
I think at some point during the year he's going to get that opportunity anyway. When you've got a guy of Caesar's experience and age, I think he's not going to play every game this season. So there's going to be a point where Galvin and Fainu are in the halves, in my opinion. Putting Galvin and Fainu together in the last couple of rounds, I don't overly understand because we've got Jerome Luai coming next year. So you're not really preparing him to take on that role next year because he probably won't be going into that role for a long period of time next year. So to me, I think some thought needs to be put in around how you're planning to use him moving forward because in all likelihood at this point in time, it's not going to be to play in the halves. So I think that's what the planning needs to be for, is what you're looking at using him for next year, not to see if I've got one too many halves moving in the next season.
Declan Appy, last quick one. Will he make it 2027? He certainly won't make it the way we're using him at the moment. He'd be lucky to make it the next week.
No, it's a little bit like the Jason Taumalolo thing with Todd Payton, how like Taumalolo was playing 80 minutes and then Todd Payton was like, if we want to keep him to like the end of his contract, we have to start with
just on him. I don't know if he's been playing off the bench all year, but I saw he played 20 minutes or something the last 2 games. I think he's completely spent. I think his knees are gone or something. He's finished.
Yeah, he's got like a recurrent knee injury, but I think it just shows you that you do need to kind of manage these guys, especially as they get towards the end of their careers. And like even Appy in his prime at Penrith, like he wasn't playing 80 minutes. And like I don't really know a lot of like, yes, obviously there's some 80-minute hookers in the game these days, but the game's just so fast and there's such a demand defensively that I just think that we're gonna like reduce his career if we keep playing him 80 minutes. And it's just strange as well because obviously Jake Simpkin isn't the answer to the problem, but like it's not like he's unplayable. Like I just don't see why you can't play him 20 minutes a game where he'll just make his tackles and then hopefully like we maintain like consistency or momentum. But that's the thing I just don't think we need to be playing Appy 80 minutes at the moment.
And it's not just that, we've had him on the bench. So there's been games he's been sitting on the bench and just hasn't been used.
Who? Simpkin?
Yes.
Has he got on the field at all this year in first grade?
Not that I can can recall off the top of my
I
head.
don't even remember him being on the bench, but I know Benji hasn't used guys on the bench, so maybe he was once or twice.
Was it the Parramatta game he was on the bench, Declan? Do you remember?
Probably once or twice.
I can't remember.
Yeah, early in the season he was definitely on the bench. But in regards to Appy in 2027, if Talon Silva is going to develop into the player that everyone is kind of hoping and expecting him to do, by 2027 you really want him taking over that role anyway. If he's not taking over that role by around that stage, then he's probably not developing into the player that we want and the hooker that we need for the next 10 years moving forward.
I mean, but if you just look at like other examples around the league, like Darcy Lussick, he started the year playing 80 minutes, but then Parramatta brought in a second hooker as well because like his defensive capability just diminishes because he's fatigued, and it makes sense. And Damien Cook used to be like an 80-minute hooker as well, and now he's had his minutes slashed as well, and he's even been dropped. So I just think the game is so fast now that it's just really rare to have a hooker that has the fitness to be able to play 80 minutes like week in, week out. And with Appy as well, he's a great player, but you can tell when he's fatigued, he does make those defensive errors that we can't have. And like it makes sense because like he just doesn't have the ability anymore to play that minutes of time. And I think that we really should, as Gary said, like for his long-term benefit, look to reduce his minutes.
And there's actually three problems with the amount of time we're playing him at the moment. I don't think he's as effective during the game. So every game, I don't think he's as effective as he could be playing. If he was only playing 60 minutes, I think he'd be much more effective during those 60 minutes. I think his season is going to be towards the back end. I think he's really going to start to struggle from the amount of work that he's doing. And then that third one, and I think Declan's exactly right, you're going to shorten his career. He's not going to be able to play. He will be lucky to make the end of this contract that he's on now if we keep playing him for those amount of minutes. So I don't see short-term gain by playing him for 80 minutes. I don't think he's playing his best football at the moment because he's playing too many minutes. I don't see medium-term gain because I don't think he's going to get the best season out of him. And there's definitely not long-term gain. So I don't understand the decision at all to playing the minutes we're playing him at the moment.
All right, boys, it's buy, sell, hold time. That was a good segment. You enjoy that, boys? I thought that was good.
Wait, we're not going to go through our teams?
That's really good because I didn't come up with one.
Okay.
Well, Declan, you go through your team and tell me something that we don't know already. So I did ask for like a dream signing or someone out of the blue. Have you got someone from
Declan spent an hour
either a junior
trying to organise this?
Yeah, because unlike Eddie, I'm a professional, so when I get asked, I'm okay. But so I just thought that I went with in terms of the backline, I went Bula. I think, like you said, to ask for like a dream signing, I went Brian Toto. I think he's exceptional. Like he's best mates with Jerome Luai and also Taruva as well. So that's the kind of Hailmaker signing that I think that would be absolutely brilliant if we could make that. And then obviously Taruva in the centres and Makasini, the other left centre, the Harold Mats Player of the Year. Like he won over the weekend. He's a brilliant player. I think we need to re-sign him because he's off contract at the end of next year. But if we can keep hold of him, he's definitely someone who I think will replace Olam in that left side at centre. And then I went Naveen Willett, winger. I know he played a few minutes in the trials.
Had a really tall.
Yeah, really tall. Looks like a man playing against kids.
How's he been going this year?
Well, I think he's been injured. I think he picked up an injury just after the trials, and he's still young, so it's a little bit up in the air. But I just think he's one of those kind of Daniel Tupou, like wingers with size that can really be an aerial threat for us, and I hope he continues to develop. And then obviously Galvin Luai, Hole Corsa, Yuta Kamanu. I've also thrown in Viliami Kekau on the edge for us as the other kind of.
It is a dream side.
Yeah, it is a dream side. I actually did hear a rumor that he is keen to link back up with Jerome Luai. This was before Penrith kind of went on that kind of positive winning streak. So I'm not sure if that's still in play, but I heard he is keen to link back up with Jerome Luai. And then
he's killing. He's killing.
Yeah, so it's probably going to stop him from coming here. But then at 13, I thought someone like Jermaine Hopgood. I thought he could be a brilliant signing for us because he's one of those kind of workhorses that can ball play for us. So, yep, there we go. There's my starting 13. I've got a bench as well, but yeah, it's just.
Did you have a Samuela Fainu on the back row?
Yeah, he was my 12.
No, good.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I had the exact same slide written here. I can't believe we came up with the same.
Buy, sell, hold. Gary, question 1. If you could rework or rip up one current contract in the West Tigers, it would be John Bateman.
I'll get rid of Sullivan first. So, no, it wouldn't be John Bateman. It would be Sullivan.
Okay. Declan, it's time for Isaiah Papali'i to be benched or dropped from the team.
I'm going to buy that. I think he should be benched. I don't think he should be dropped. I think that he's trying very hard, but we're just not getting what we need out of him at the moment. Like, he has a really good player and he's quality, but yeah, I just think that maybe like a bench dent, maybe put him in the middle, getting him the ball a little bit more, like so he could find some confidence. I think that's what he needs right now.
Gary, Stefano will play more than 8 minutes in Origin this year.
Unless his form from the last 2 weeks improves, I don't think he'll play in the Origin.
I don't think Madge is even considering him, and I don't know that. I just look at Madge, and I think Madge is going to do some rare selections. I think he's going to go with guys like Blake Brayley and Cameron McGuinness, and I don't think Appy will play Origin. I know I'm changing the subject here, sort of, but I'm fine with that because I know it hurts Appy, obviously, because he probably deserves it. But I think Madge is not even considering him. I could be dead wrong.
Look, I think if Steph's form had continued from earlier in the year, I think he would have been putting his name at least into the conversation. But his form the last couple of weeks don't warrant even being in the conversation. So we'll see what happens this weekend. He's got an opportunity against the Bulldogs this weekend to get his year back on track. But I'm definitely selling. I don't think he'll be playing Origin.
100 to 1, I'm saying. No bets allowed, but 100 to 1. Will Appy play Origin, Declan? I don't think he will.
I think he deserves to. I think he's the form.
Will he, though? Will he?
Yes, because he's got that relationship with Madge from South Sydney, and like Madge signed him like to come to the Tigers before he was sacked. And like Brayley's a good player, but he's not the same class of player as Appy is.
And Appy's that toughness, that Origin player through and through. I think they'll be mad not to pick him.
And he's got the experience as well. Like he's played Origin before, but Brayley's a debutant, so you're not really sure how he'll go in that arena.
Declan, what have I got? I've got a couple more questions here. The Rozelle tree I've got here, it put Paul Kent in a dangerous position. Buy or sell?
Yep, I'm going to buy that. Yep, he should be what grade 3 careless high time. So, yeah.
What 4 weeks?
Oh, I thought it was okay. I'd be fine getting playing. You know,
play on in his book.
Just a fine for the tree. He's available this week again. Gary, we will get the wooden spoon this season. Buy or sell?
I'm selling that as well.
I tell you what, Gary, I'm worried. And I'm not being negative here, but there's 3 teams I think that could potentially get the wooden spoon outside of us. There's no way the Dragons or the Bulldogs are going to get it. They've improved significantly. The Titans, I think, are a team that has a lot of attacking ability, and I can't see them finishing last. I think Newcastle without Kalen Ponga could finish last, but they scrapped another win last week. And I'm hoping Souths keep imploding, but they've got 5 or 6 Origin players, so surely they can't finish last.
I think our attack is going to improve over the next couple of weeks. The game this weekend that we're about to preview in a few minutes, I think it's crucial to our season. We need a big performance this weekend. If you ask me again this time next week, I may not be as confident, but I think we're a side that's going to improve as the season goes on, and I don't think we'll end up with this week.
It's good to see, Declan, just mentioning, if you said 9 rounds into this year, there'd be a club that, has sacked their coach. There's a lot of player power. Texts from 5 minutes to go from the coach, a leak to the media. You'd say, well, that's been us the last 5 years. But I mean, is Pascoe? Is he running Souths at the moment? What's going on there?
Yeah, it might be like a shadow CEO from the sideline that they don't want to identify, and that's why Blake Sully's the guy who's putting the cameras. I just don't understand why they just feel the need to always go on NRO 360 to kind of justify like why they've done something, because they're never going to get like a good reception there, and it never helps.
I saw that, and I thought he handled himself all right, but like I agree with the point. Like, what have you got to gain there? Like Shane Richardson, he doesn't even pick up the phone to those blokes, does he?
Yeah, and like you've got Braithen Asta, who's a player manager for Lachlan Ellis, who's obviously going to be angry because his players being booted out because they've signed Lewis Dorr from the Super League, and he's interviewing you, so obviously he's not going to give you like a fair go. So yeah, I just don't see like what benefit is to them. But it did remind me of the Lee Fedora interview last season, and I haven't seen the interview, but I'm going to assume that like Sully did a better job than Lee did last year on NRO 360.
Gary, I thought you were going to say something, but you're not.
Mate, I don't watch those shows. I've got no idea what's going on.
This question segues into the preview, Gary. So it's I've done well here.
Wow, yes. A real host this week.
Now the forecast this Saturday is about 12 degrees. There's going to be 40 millimeters of rain. It's ANZ Stadium. Will Joel be the first person in the ground? Given he loves this stadium so much, he will surely be there for all 3 grades this week.
Well, I did just get a message from Joel telling me he can't release the pod tonight, that I've got to do it. So he may already be there. So I think he's got his tent set up outside and he's lined up waiting to get in. Because with 80,000 seats, you've got to get there early to make sure you get one.
It's going to be, brilliant this week, Declan. I can't wait. I was thinking of getting the train out the day before, just, 8,000 people in the rain at ANZ. This is the stuff that Joel he's dreamed about,
Sarcasm aside, I actually don't mind Olympic Park either. Like, I was coming through high school with when the Tigers played the majority of their home games there, and I've got fond memories. So I actually don't mind the stadium as much as you guys clearly dislike it. So,
all right, let's preview the game. We play the Bulldogs, Gary, at ANZ Stadium, as you might have guessed.
It's now called Accor as well. It's not ANZ Stadium anymore.
I've got a couple other names, stadium I could call it, but I won't on here. It's sort of, I'm predicting meltdowns this week, Gary, and it could be me.
From you?
It could be me, but I'm predicting more meltdowns. I'm predicting all sorts of meltdowns because I am saying Tigers fans in their, right, they probably haven't watched the Bulldogs play 7 games, and they would look at this team and go, okay, this is the other rebuilding team that's been a basket case for 5, 6, 7 years, and we should beat them. And I don't think we will. I think they're actually going to go close to making the top 8. So I'm predicting meltdowns this week. Is that fair or not?
If we lose, it's probably fairly fair. I'm hoping it's a game we're going to win.
I'm hoping we win as well, but are we I don't think we will.
I haven't put my tips in yet, and I haven't decided which way I'm going to go. I'm more confident about this game than I have been the last 2. We're coming off playing back the grand finals back-to-back. I think we're a chance this weekend. I think we're a better side than what the scoreboard has indicated the last 2 weeks. I think our attacking structures are improving. I am worried about their left-hand side attack. That is a high-powered attack, and we're going to have to be really strong on our right side defence. But it is a game, if we control that and we control Burton's kicking game, I think it is a game we can get away with.
Declan, the rain is actually forecast the next 4 or 5 days, so I think that's actually something that really plays into our hands because Canterbury, not a noted pack, they're playing well above themselves, but if we could get a heavy 10 out there in racing terms, that would really suit our team against them.
Yeah, I think that their forward pack going into the season was heavily criticised. I think at the moment they're not as bad as everyone was highlighting. Still not amazing, but they have, played some good games. They smashed the Knights. Obviously, Kalen Ponga went off at the 20-minute mark there, but still impressive. And I just think it's kind of like last season when we played them, just at the wrong time, where they're just high on confidence. We're a little bit low on confidence, and they've just got some classy players that can just make us pay because, we actually nearly had a comeback, but last season when we played them at Belmore, but they just have a little bit more class in the back line. And I agree with you, Eddie. I think that I would be surprised if we won this, because these are typically the kind of games that we don't like show our best foot at, because there is a little bit of expectation that we do compete against these guys. And yeah, I just don't see it this week, unfortunately.
For me, it's really time. If we're going to make anything of this season, anything at all, and I'm not talking about making the top 8, this is a game we need to get out there and win. It's not a game we just need to get out there and perform well. We need to get a win this weekend. And I'm hoping the team shows up with that attitude. I'm hoping those past things where we lose a game where that we're partly favourites in, I'm hoping that's gone. I don't think we're favourites going into this game.
Bulldogs heavy favourites, Gary.
Yeah, I would think so. But I do think if we can shut down that left-hand attack, I do think we're a chance in this game. But what we do need is we need Steph playing the way he was at the start of the season. I think that goes a long way to laying our platform, and that gives Galvin and the outside backs a chance.
All right, boys, prediction time. Declan, I'm going with my head over my heart. I just think it's going to be meltdown time. And I'm not predicting we'll play really badly. I just think they're ahead of us in terms of how they're playing, especially in attack. I think they win 24-12.
Yeah, I'm going to go 30 points to 10.
Ooh,
Bulldogs.
That's real meltdown time. Gary?
Yeah, I'm going to be positive like I always am, and I'm going to go 22-18 Tigers side.
And that's why we have 2 spoons.
Time for the quiz.
Wait, 2 spoons because I'm positive. That doesn't work.
You put bad omens on us, Gary.
I jinx us.
Yeah, you jinx us. So does Steve as well, to be fair.
Boys, it's time for the quiz. Question 1. Terry Hill.
Read, Eddie. Read.
Late Terry Hill. 246 games in first grade. He never lost to the Adelaide Rams, the Northern Eagles, the South Queensland Crushers, and which other current NRL team?
The West Tigers.
Declan, I think you've got into Yachty's head there and it's a bit of a trick question and you've nailed it. Terry Hill did play one game against the West Tigers.
I'm actually calling Yachty out for being wrong this week. He never lost to a current NRL team called the Dolphins.
I'm not making any comment on that, Gary.
Did he say? Did he say he played them?
Terry Hill played against us in 2005. Manly beat us 34-26 at Brookvale Oval. Question number 2. Which jersey did Josh Addo-Carr wear on his West Tigers debut? Was it...
Oh, Declan. It was that one with the weird, black across the chest with the white shoulder and the orange at the rest of it.
May have been, Declan, but you got to listen to the rest of the question. What number jersey was he wearing? Was it A, number 2, B, number 5, C, number 18, or D, number 22, Gary?
D.
22.
I do vaguely remember that. And also, who was on the opposite wing wearing 22? Also on debut.
Declan, it was Vunivalu.
Yeah, Vunivalu. What about those two
Declan.
debut on the same day? That's an interesting one. Fox scored 1 try. Vunivalu scored 2. We lost in Golden Point. Round 2 of 2006, not a particularly memorable game. I was at this game. The Bulldogs smashed the West Tigers 47-12 at Homebush. How many points did Hazem El Masri score that game? Declan, nearest to the pit.
I'm going to go 25.
What was the score again?
47-12.
Yeah, I'll go 24.
34 points. 4 tries and 9 goals from 10. He wasn't the biggest try scorer in the world, Hazem, but geez, he could kick goals back in the day before everyone could kick goals. Question 5 and the last question for today, Gary. This is a little bit around you, so you should be getting this one right. Name the 4 West Tigers players whose first name begins with the letter G.
Gareth Ellis.
That was the only one I would have got. There's 3 other guys. and they have made combined 25 appearances for the club. One guy played one game in 2002. One guy played 9 games in 2003. He was a back rower who sort of had a bit of hype about him, but never lived up to it.
Graveyard.
Yeah. Well done, Gary. That's a good one. Declan wasn't alive back then, so he wouldn't know about Graveyard. And there was one guy who actually played 15 games in between 2010 and 2011, Declan. So this brings you into play. He played for the Cook Islands, 2 stints at the Panthers, 15 games for the West Tigers. Obviously an outside back. I think he's centre or winger. Starting with a G. First name, Jeff.
Oh, Jeff Daniela.
Jeff Daniela. And the other one appearance, I do remember him. He played for the Illawarra Steelers, Gary, for 4 years. He debuted with Daniel Fitzhenry in that game at Leichhardt, 2002. First name, Glenn. Not ringing a bell. Glenn Eyre, the great Glenn Eyre. So thank you, Yodi, for the quiz. Hopefully I redeem myself this week, despite Gary trying to bring in teams that were not in the NRL when Terry Hill played.
Hey, you said which current NRL team did he not get a victory against?
Gary, you're trying to bring trouble to the quiz, which we don't need.
Maybe he played maybe he did in the Queensland Cup. We don't know.
Reserve grade. He wouldn't have played much reserve grade, the great Terry Hill. All right, boys, thanks for tonight. If all going well, it'll be a podcast Sunday. Like I said, I'm threatening to have a meltdown if we lose badly this week. So,
will it be an on-air meltdown, or will you just sulk and lock yourself in your bedroom and not come out?
Depends how many hours it is between the podcast and the game, Gary. So wait. All right, thank you, boys.
Thank you.